exposure, price, condition, the motivation of the seller. Do you want to know what sets property listing apart and why some houses sell faster than the others? Today in this video, I will be talking about the 4 most important things when it comes to selling your house. So the 4 most important things are exposure, price, condition, and lastly, and the one which I think is the most important, the motivation of the seller. So the first one which I will be talking about will be exposure. Why is exposure so important when it comes to the sales of your property? Imagine if you go on to like Google search engine or whatever search engine, right? Usually when you search for something, let's say a phone, you will only click into the max 3 or 4, top 3 or top 4 results. This is the same for your property listing. Firstly, is it being aggressively marketed across all property platforms? Because just listing it itself without understanding the mechanism will not help you get your listing the proper exposure or sufficient exposure that it requires. So what I mean is there's actually a reposting function, much like Carousel and other listing platform. If you pay money and repost it, your listing will always be at the top, and the chances of you appearing in serious buyer search will be much higher. So I'll say exposure is a very important thing for all of the sellers out there. Whether you're selling it on your own or engaging agents to sell for you, you must give it sufficient exposure that is always at the top view of the page so that your listing gets sold faster. Which brings me to my second point. Even if you have very good exposure, but the condition of your unit is not well, or the listing photos are not taken properly, people might still skip the listing because humans are visual animals, right? So this is one thing as sellers you have to understand. Condition of the unit does not mean the physical condition, it also means the listing condition. When you are doing like the photo shoot before you list the property, are the houses neat, properly packed, and are they bright enough? This is the first condition. The second condition is when you actually do get a buyer down for viewing, is it the same or even better than what is seen online? Because when they see your listing online, they have already sort of a certain expectation of what they want to see in real life. So when they come down and they see that, there's a big difference, it might cause disappointment in their heart. So this is something that you would have to understand and position yourself correctly so that the expectations for the buyer when they are looking online and when they are looking in person, it looks the same, if not even better. And another thing to highlight is for condition wise, right? What I see most sellers do is they feel that minor touch up for the unit is not as important. But from a buyer's standpoint, whenever they step into a unit, you have to think from a buyer point of view. They will start to look out for minor defects, whether it is something that is very serious or not. It can, because when buyers come in, right, they will try to discount the unit from a buyer's point of view. So it will be good if you can give the unit a fresh coat of paint and do something necessary so that the whole house look nice. Which brings me to the second most important thing about selling your house, which is the condition of the unit. When I talk about condition of unit, it's not just the physical aspect when your buyers come down for the viewing. It's also how the photos are being taken and the condition of the unit that's shown in the photo. Because even if you are in the top search list, right, on whatever property platform, if the pictures are not nice and people feel that the condition is very messy, they will still give the unit a miss. So whatever marketing effort you put or marketing dollar you put in aggressively promoting your listing, it might backfire because people just don't find the unit appealing. And of course, when the buyers come down after seeing a nice condition unit, are their expectations being met? And what I meant by that is, did you take the effort to pack the house and make it look as nice as or even nicer than what is seen on the photo? Because once the listing photo is being posted and it's nice, right, when the buyer come down, they already have a certain expectation of the unit. And if you do not spend that like 20-30 minutes to pack up the house, make things, stitch the house a bit, turn on the aircon, make things look nice, it might actually defeat the purpose, or it might lead to disappointment from the buyer's point of view lah. So condition is very important, be it online or physical. And another thing I would like to add on, which most sellers might miss, is you might think that a crack on your wall is just something that can be fixed easily with a handyman. If they just touch up, it's like $100-$200 thing. But when a buyer come in and they see, for example, a crack on the wall, they might start to associate it with a lot of negative things. Is the house getting too old? When was the last renovation done? Was there any like water leakages? So even to the seller's mind, because you're staying there, you know the house well, but when a buyer come in, they will think from a buyer standpoint, this will cost me, they will amplify whatever cost is required. So if instead of $100, when they offer you, they will discount like $5,000, $10,000 from whatever offer price, and that will be like they are bargaining chip if they are really interested. They will bring up all these things like, heavy renovation needs to be done, even though that might not be the case. So if you have proper exposure, do always remember to pair it up and make the house in a good condition for viewing, so people cannot find fault in it, be it online or physically. And the third point will be the pricing. How are you valuing or how do you value your property? Is it at a fair value? When I talk about fair value, it's not so much of shortchanging yourself, so much so that you don't market your property at the right price or what is being expected in the market lah. The third important thing to take note about selling your house is how do you price your unit. How do you price your unit is a very sensitive topic when communicating with home sellers or when setting the expectations for yourself, because how do you determine a fair value? There's always an emotional aspect to it if you're a home seller, because we are all creatures of emotion. We are home proud, and of course we are all greedy and we want to sell as much as possible in the market. But at the end of the day, you do have to realize that this fair value is given by the bank based on the recent transacted price in the market. So if you expect to sell much higher than the valuation, not say that it cannot be done, it will be harder, because most likely you'll be helping your neighbors that are priced correctly to sell their unit first. Secondly, there will be a lot of disappointment in not getting the price you want, because ultimately the person or the corporation organization that set the valuation will still be the bank. So for example, if you are in a buyer's point of view, most of the time before a buyer offer, if they are keen to offer, they will always go to a few bankers and ask for a range of valuation. So it might come out to be around like 1.7 to 1.75 million. So that will be a fair valuation for the unit. And if you're asking for around 1.9 million, buyers themselves will be hesitant to offer much higher than what the bank has already valued the unit at. So this is something that you do have to take note of when pricing your unit, because you don't want it to be so low that you're changing yourself, and you don't want it to be so high that whatever marketing effort that you put in with the previous step that we mentioned goes to waste, and the unit just sit on in the market for a very long time where people are snapping up similar units around your neighborhood. Okay, so the last point, or the most important step out of these four, I will think, will be the motivation of a seller, or the motivation of you as a home seller. Why I say so is because most of the time, if you are not motivated to sell, you will not put in an effort to do the market research, to pay your house, and to price your unit correctly. So motivation is very important, because motivation gives you a perspective and you understand that, these are the things that I need to do to make my house sell easier or sell slightly higher than valuation. And with that motivation, it's also easier for you to identify what is a fair value. Of course, once you have all these four in place, then you can have a certain set of strategies of how do you want to stage your house, how do you want to do open house, and what type of agent you want to engage. So motivation of the seller is very important so that no time will be wasted on your side to show viewings to buyers to pack your house, because ultimately you will know that, oh, I want to sell this house and how serious am I in selling the house. So with all these 4 steps in place, one bonus tip which I can give you before I end of the video, it's if you are looking to engage an agent, make sure that you have good proper rapport with the agent, open communication and trust, because the agent will be there to give you feedback on the ground from what the buyers are feeling. Sometimes buyers are just paiseh to us, or they will not want to tell you how they truly feel. But with the agent, they will highlight, oh, what are the things that we feel? Is it priced correctly? Is it because the unit is too hot, no ventilation? And with that kind of feedback, right, you can work together with the agent to properly strategize or position your unit in the market so that it will appeal more to the next buyer coming in. Because most likely after 10 or 20 viewings, you would know what most people feel, and it will be most likely the same few objections on the ground, or the same few USP, and how you can amplify it so that your house is sold even faster. So to summarize, these are the 4 points which I feel as an agent, as a property agent in the field for close to 10 years, this is what I gather, that the exposure. To summarize, these are the 4 important points which I feel as a home seller you should know. Firstly is exposure. Is your unit getting the right exposure? Secondly is the condition of the unit. Thirdly is the pricing. And lastly will be your motivation to sell. Of course, one bonus tip to end off all this is, if you do intend to get a property agent to work with, ensure that you have the right rapport with them and open communication, because agents will be soliciting feedbacks from buyers on the ground or buyers that view the unit, right? And they can give you tips on how to improve on these 4 points, because pricing is a very sensitive thing. You can always start off high even though the valuation might be slightly lower, and you see the response on the ground, because maybe your unit do have some USP which the bank do not know, and that can garner you a bit of advantage on the market itself. So this is a very important point as well. Remember the 4 things that you can work on, and best is if you can get an agent that you can openly communicate to get your house sold for the highest price and the fastest time possible.